Alright, welcome back everyone. This is going to be slightly different today, so I've made this whole stream public. I'm not going to be doing much trading today because it's A, the end of the month, B, at the end of the month I usually just like to kind of go over some of my performances. It's been a good month. It's been a very good month for me. Obviously a few missed days when I was away or I was ill or whatever, but overall almost like 31 grand in one of the prop accounts. Not bad, right? So today, instead of doing the live trading, I'm gonna have a look at Blahtech VWAP because, as you know, you guys have been asking for this like for so long. Well, it's out, it's here, and I am going in with a messy bun. You know, whenever you need to get some serious shit done, you want to get a messy bun. Alright, so let's get rid of that. We're going to have a look at the basic features. Obviously, I'm going to be doing another video that's going to be a lot more structured, but I just thought, well, since it's the end of the month, we don't want to be destroying our profits by doing muppety things. It's best to just leave it alone and then focus on something else. For most of you, that would mean going back over the trades that you've done, seeing what kind of improvements you might want to do in the next month. Any kind of trading is usually a never-ending, continuous development. So, you know, don't trade, pause off the trigger, mouse, and all that, and use this time wisely. But let's have a look at Blahtech VWAP. I'm like super excited because we've been working on this for a while. And we finally released it yesterday. I see Ray is here. Ray is the ultimate VWAP man. When I was creating the email for our newsletter that, you know, people get when they're on our newsletter, I was thinking whether I should include Ray's tagline, which is, "Have you hugged your VWAP?" But I thought, nah, I should probably ask him for permission because that's his tagline. Because at this point, Ray has got his own audience, and he's also getting notoriety as one of the better traders out there in the world. So well done, Ray. All right, so let's have a look at some basic features. I'm gonna remove some of the other things here for now. Actually, I might just hide them on the chart because that might be easier. I'm gonna reset the settings so that we can start fresh. All right, so candle timer can stay. We're not really that bothered about that. Remove all this. Okay, so I think I've got everything nicely on the go. Right, Jeremy is here, Padawan is here, obviously Ray is here, very good. The first thing to note is that obviously there's a VWAP here, but there are also standard deviation curves. There's 3 to begin with, and you actually have some different calculations for this. Because we looked at several platforms, we looked at Sierra Chart, we looked at TradingView, we looked at how those were coded, and we figured out that rather than just offering one calculation, we want to go the whole hog, and we want to offer people the possibility to optimize everything. So if you can see here, standard deviation. Let me do the bigger screen, because I think this will be a little bit better. There we go. So here we have standard deviation area in the inputs. Visible, true. Obviously, if you don't want that on the chart, you can say false, and that's going to remove them. But if you do want them, obviously, you want to keep them. So the method. There's Sierra Chart methods. Okay, so they have their own way of doing things. We then have the method from TradingView. There was a similar one, but it was slightly different. We have a standard Bollinger Band, which is just a normal standard deviation using moving average 20 periods and then kind of calculating that as the benchmark. we have the standard deviation from the actual VWAP curve. I don't know how many of you use this. It might be a little bit different than your other standard deviation. So again, I'm not a core VWAP trader. I do use it these days because so many of you have been using it, and I eventually had to start looking at it, and I found some ways to figure out how it can be useful for me, and I'm going to talk about that as well. I even have like a mini course that I want to get for you out for free on YouTube. It's only going to be very short, but yeah. So if you want to use VWAP standard deviation curve using VWAP as a benchmark, that is in there as well. I see Future Trader has joined us. Hello, thank you. I am on the mend, yes. For those of you who are maybe new here or you haven't been following what's going on, I managed to get rid of my extreme tiredness that I've had from the vaccine injury a while back and from long COVID from 2020. But unfortunately, I went into some nettles over the weekend, and for some reason, my body just freaked out, and I'm still pretty red in different parts, but I've been giving some very strong antihistamine, so I'm feeling a little bit better today. I was able to sleep. That's the most important thing, because if I can't sleep, I can't do anything, and the whole life just crashes around me. But yeah, so my face is still a bit red, but that's all makeup covered right now. I'm probably going to take another few days to recover. So yeah, but it's all good. As long as I can sleep, it's all good, right? So thank you guys, really appreciate it. I'm so sorry about not being able to do the live stream yesterday, but you know, we're gonna make up for it now. Right, so let's go back to the original setting here. So reset. If you only want to see a couple of these lines, obviously you will need to switch off some standard deviation curves. So one way to do that, I guess the easiest way would be just to put them down to 0, maybe. There we go. So now that the third deviation curve has disappeared, so now you have 1 and 2. If you have custom standard deviations that you want to use, obviously that's highly optimizable. You just change here like the number to whatever you want. I know that some of you like to do back testing and to optimize this standard deviation just for the product in question. So if you're using 2.5, 2.3, or you know, you find that 1.7 works best for your market and for the session that you're trading, then that is also very, very customizable. Like I said, you can remove one of them or 2 of them. So yeah, very, very nice. Okay, let's have a look at the VWAP calculation itself. So obviously we wouldn't be Blahtech if we didn't have more ways to calculate this VWAP thing. So basically you have a range of options to choose from. So we have the session VWAP, which is what us intraday traders should really be using. But if you want to look at like swing trades or even investing, because a lot of investing is done using VWAP to see whether you're above it or below it, and then any kind of movement towards it is used to either add on to the position or enter a brand new one. And because of that, we have some pretty high time frames here. So we start on the daily. There's also weekly, monthly, quarterly, and yearly. Now, the single fixed VWAP, I'm pretty sure that that is to do with the anchor, because I think that's anchored VWAP. The way some of the other platforms do the anchored VWAP is to just kind of click on the chart. Now, unfortunately, MetaTrader doesn't really have that. You can't just click on the chart and then have it, you know, change the entire algorithm. But what we've done, if you see here, single fixed start time, that allows you to pinpoint the exact price that you want to anchor the VWAP to. So for example, if you wanted to anchor it for the high of the day or the low of the day, that's very possible, but you will have to find the actual second and minute, at least, of the low that you want to use. So for example, here we have some lows from the London trading, and then here we have the low from the COMEX session. So let's try that out. I'm going to drop down to a very low time frame so that I can pinpoint the area that I want to use. So here we go. We have 1400, and then I can say low. So single fixed, that's the first thing to change if you want to use this. Apply to low, and then we're going to go here to say 1400. Okay, so now that is calculating the VWAP. See, it's changed, it's down here now, from the low of the day. Okay, so remember, it is a volume weighted average price, so you're not going to be like seeing it right down here, but instead it's going to be volume weighted, right? And that's how you would anchor it. So if you want the high of the day, if you want close of the day, like, it's literally so customizable. But the only caveat is that you do need to put down the minute where you want to use it. Jeremy, just hide the standard deviations. Jeremy is asking, how do I remove all the deviations except for the middle VWAP? So you have this area here. If you go down, it says standard deviation visible, true. So if you just double click on that and it says false, it's actually going to remove all of it apart from VWAP itself. Let's go up to the 30 minutes so you can see that. Now my VWAP, like I said, I've anchored it to something else, so I'm going to get that back to default and apply to close. Okay, there we go. So we're back. So if you don't want the standard deviations to show at all, then you need to hide them. Literally a click of a button, or double click of the button to be exact. That's just here. So you have standard deviation section, and then if you don't want them visible, you literally just switch them off. That's actually how I use it as well, because I don't really use standard deviations much. When I was doing this little course idea, I actually did put all of it on, and I did a trade today to kind of prove a point. The only trade that I did was on one of the other accounts. And it was a gold trade based on the standard deviation plus the reversal price, and that went straight to VWAP right at the open, which is not something that I do. You guys know that I don't really trade the initial balance, but you know, it was just like to prove a point. It does work. It's just there are better ways to obtain the open sentiment and a whole bunch of other things, which is my preferred way of doing it because I'm a control freak. So I like to have as much information about my setup as possible. So yeah, very easy to remove anything. And again, if you don't want any other things, you might want to remove them completely. We have a visitor.
Single fixed.
Yeah.
Is date. You need to change the date to today, and then you don't change the close price. It's not low.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
Just the date.
Yeah. So all you need to do to change is just the date. Apparently. Yeah. We have a programmer here.
It was running from way below before.
Right. Okay. I actually have a team. Our team is here. So, but they're pretty shy. They don't want to be on camera, and they're gone. It's like, yeah. So anytime we're working, everybody kind of comes to my house, and then we kind of have our brainstorming sessions, and then everybody goes away, and then we have like Zoom calls or Skype calls and stuff. So it's pretty fun. But today, because they wanted to have a bit of a celebration, so everybody's turned up here. So yeah, need to fix. Yeah, exactly. It's not the fix. Apparently, I didn't say it right. So yeah. So basically, he just said, if you want the single fixed, all you need to change is the date, and then apparently it does what it's supposed to do. But the date is, yeah. So the date needs to be changed as well, from what I figured. Anyways, let's move on from that, because I don't know how many people are going to be using that feature anyways. Let me bring back the full shebang, the Bollinger Bands. There they are. nice gray color, so it's not that intrusive. So the next very unique thing that you might see on this chart, like this is GC, so I'm going to be changing that in a minute, but you see this blue line, this straight blue line. That is actually a settlement price that can be changed to whatever you wish, because as we know, COMEX settlement price is based on the old open outcry hours, and whenever you have that kind of an exchange, obviously the settlement price is going to be something that is now in electronic trading, just something that sort of happens and then the volume falls off. But the market actually keeps trading. This is one of the reasons why for my market profile calculations, I always use Globex instead of COMEX these days. Since everybody's used to electronic trading now, COMEX doesn't have like that much of an impact. It's not like you have a whole pit of people trading gold anymore. You know, that's like back in the day. That just doesn't happen anymore. Because of that, the old COMEX hours are less relevant. So the main trading and the whole madness really starts at 13:30 my time, which is 8:30 a.m. Eastern, I believe. So yeah, anything prior to that, you know, back in the day it used to be 8:20. That was like the official COMEX start, and then the end is 1:30 p.m. So really, for the settlement, which is still a thing, settlement is still very important. You want to change the settlement line. It's always going to be set to time of day, close, and then here you actually want to put it in GMT, which is 16:30. So now you have the settlement line, right? It's GC. If it's, for example, ES or something, that is actually the settlement for ES and NQ happens at, it's between 14 and 15 minutes, so it's between 4:14 and 4:15 after the market closes. So it's not immediate. It doesn't happen when the bell rings. It's like, oh, we're done. It actually happens 14 minutes after the bell, okay? So if you're trading ES, that will need to be changed. One thing that you will notice is that after settlement, you will see the market the market volumes fall off. So I'm just gonna try and somehow get this in full view so that you can see that. Okay. So if we go to the previous trading day, and I am going to put just the profile TPOs so we can see when the session was happening. So this is the entire Globex, right? But the settlement is actually here. So up until that point, even yesterday when it was like a holiday day, there was still a little bit of movement and then everything dies. And if you go back, that tends to be true for most days. So even here, you can see pretty lively, pretty lively, pretty lively. And then we come to 6:30 p.m. and the volumes just die a death. There's still a little bit of movement, so you know I actually pretty much trade gold up until the end of the electronic trading, and quite frequently you can get, you know, a nice little move from it, typically about 30 or 40 ticks, so you know, not to be sniffed at. But just do be aware that after settlement time on COMEX, everything dies down a little bit. So that's why that's important. Now, let's talk strategies. So when you have a settlement price, why is a settlement price important? Those of you who are on Top Step, and those of you who have had a chance to speak to Hogue or Mike or any of the performance coaches out there, you guys know that they do have a strategy that calls for the move back towards settlement first and then maybe back to VWAP. Okay, that's something that they do all the time. So in a way, that's actually a perfect way to use this sort of strategy. So one way would be to look for a day when the market actually opens and moves kind of back towards settlement. So here is that kind of a thing. If you see, what date is this? This was 26th of May. So you see the price going down. So settlement was here. So the price at the open rushes down to settlement before it does anything else, okay? And then after that makes a reversal pattern and then migrates back to VWAP. That's something that we see quite a lot. I have a slightly different way of utilizing that. Even though the levels are kind of similar, I don't necessarily use settlement and VWAP, but it's a very, very similar concept. However, if you want to simplify things, or if you're just getting to grips with professional style of trading, you want to start using these levels, consider that as a strategy. And that's where Blahtech VWAP can be very useful, because it gives you all of those levels right there. You don't need to have like 3 different indicators, one for settlement, one for standard deviation curves, and then another one for VWAP. It's not necessary, okay? So it's pretty useful. And one thing that really did annoy me is the fact that that I did once upon a time I did use that strategy myself on crude oil. It also works pretty well there. And I had to use various platforms. Like one of them didn't have settlement prices, so I had to use one. Like I had to use CTST4, which did have the settlement price on there. Then another one was using standard deviation curves, but I didn't like that one, so I basically used another indicator, and it just gets really cluttered very quickly. Another point I want to make is that this particular indicator is very CPU optimized. It's not going to crash your machine. It's not going to burden your existing suite of indicators. It is very, very, very efficient when it comes to resources, okay? Very important, because the one thing that is my pet peeve is when you get a new indicator and you plonk it on and it slows everything down and you're like, what the hell is actually happening? And then eventually it crashes your platform. You might have a trade open. You might have not put a stop loss on yet. It's like, you know, can it get any worse? So obviously because of that, I want to create indicators that are very light on the CPU, but they're also packed with features, right? Lightweight, exactly. Ray has a way with words. Okay, so we have settlement, we have standard deviation curves, and we have VWAP, very customizable, all of it. When it comes to strategies, there's really 3 types of strategies that are, in my eyes, very important, right? So one of them is using VWAP as sort of a target for any kind of mean reversion after the price has moved vastly away from VWAP. Because obviously sometimes you will have big days. Let's find a trending day. Not always, because obviously that's a little bit too much to ask, and the true trending days really only happen at about 30% of the time. They're really not that that frequent. Right, here we are. So here was a trending day. So at the open, obviously we have the market kind of going down. Again, reaches settlement first, but in this case there's no reversal. We go into a sustained auction, and immediately it just keeps falling, keeps falling, keeps falling. Here I'm using Blahtech backtest mode on a Blahtech market profile. We have Blahtech market profile and Blahtech supply and demand that have the backtest feature on them. You don't need VWAP to have the Blahtech backtest, because it's just there on the chart. It doesn't repaint. Once it's happened, it's happened. And it's basically session specific. So it wouldn't really add much to have that going backwards as well. But for market profile, supply and demand, and Blahtech DR, which is the average ranges, both daily and session ranges, which is my concept, it's very useful to have those on the chart. So if you can see here, we had a pretty big day, a little bit of a slowdown here, and then more of a drop. So a very nice way to use VWAP is to try and use it as a target. But one of the reasons why I chose this particular day and not another day where it's much less of a movement, is to illustrate a point when you have a high impact event that reprices the market. So there's a very big difference between a regular sustained auction and a repricing event. When you have a repricing event, you are expecting the price to completely migrate to new levels. And at that point, if you're expecting the reversion to the mean, that's not going to happen because a new mean will be established at new levels. So in that case, if you have a super big day, it's actually not a very good idea to use VWAP as a target. I've had some slightly less experienced traders who go, oh my God, that's like, bazillion ticks profit margin, let's go in. And I wish it was that simple, guys. I really do. But sadly, on very, very large days, be a little bit wary. You do have to have another reference for days like that. Whether you're going to use single prints or whether you're going to use... We now have a few traders who are coming to me from the inner circle guy. So, some people use fair value gaps. That might be an idea. But VWAP on a super large day is not it. Okay, you really want a day where it just sort of migrates maybe about 50 to 60 ticks away from VWAP, and then you're looking for that reversal. So for example, here's a day where you effectively have a failed auction happening almost simultaneously with the price going back to VWAP. And lo and behold, there's a settlement price. So yet again, settlement test, reversal, back to VWAP. So that's the kind of thing that you might be looking for. Then I'm going to talk about VWAP as a key level. So this is not something for intraday. It's probably more, or it might be for intraday, but not for the products that I trade. It could be more for single stocks, using VWAP as a key level. So the idea is that when the price is above VWAP, any kind of move back towards it will be a buying opportunity. And this is the reason why I don't really like using it on some of my instruments, because my instruments are very double directional, like a lot of V shapes. So obviously VWAP acts more as the middle of the middle, and yes, sometimes it's a good idea to go back to VWAP, but there's another way that I prefer to use it to keep me out of trouble. But using VWAP as a key level, it would mean that you ideally need something else to use it as a reversal area. So let's say that GC now migrates all the way down to this VWAP line and then reverses. That's all very well, but you need something else. For me, that would be an initial balance high. Okay, so why? It's because that is a very regular bounce area on moderate days. So here we have a neutral day after the couple of releases that caused a bit of mayhem. And with a neutral day, you have a couple of ways of approaching it. This is not a true neutral day because it only has effectively just a single buying tail. So it's more of an asymmetrical buying day, let's call it that way. A true neutral day will have more of a D shape to it. So then you can kind of use the extremes to bounce things from it. But in this case, since we have a potential for that sustained auction to still keep giving us more upside, that would be using VWAP as a key level. So anytime the price tests the key level, try to find some other confluence around there and then see if you can jump in. I don't like jumping in unless I actually see a reversal price, even on like Renko or somewhere, just to see a little bit of price reacting to that level, so I know that I'm not alone, because you yourself, you won't be able to influence the markets much. Only banks can do that, and people with very, very deep pockets, so don't even try. So effectively all that we're doing is trying to work out what the institutions are doing and then piggybacking on top of that. So yeah, that would be one idea here. But like I said, I trade crude oil and gold. I don't find that using VWAP as a key level is a very high probability strategy for me. And in fact, that would be more like trend following kind of stuff. And knowing how many times my instruments reverse, like nearly every single day that you look, you're going to see a down move, then a V-shaped reversal. So here's one. Here's like one here, and then V shape, and then it goes up, okay? And then today, even if you just look at an isolated day today, we had up, then we have all the way down, then we have all the way up, and now we're going down again, okay? So those kind of moves are actually pretty normal for the types of instruments that I trade, and I actually prefer it that way, because if I miss one trade, I don't want to be in a position where everything goes dead, and then I'm just sitting there going, now what? So I want to have that double-sided movement throughout the day, okay? Ray says, like working with VWAP with Bollinger Bands, but could also use VWAP standard deviation bands from my experience to support your mean reversion trades. Yeah, very interesting. So Ray is your VWAP guy, okay? He's actually one of our beta testers, and his input is always pretty thorough, and basically the man knows what he's looking for when it comes to VWAP. So yeah, so that's another way that you might use VWAP as a key level. However, for me, that is not something that I prefer. Now, for the third strategy idea, I've got to say, it's kind of a bit backwards. I'm a lefty, so I do things a little bit backwards anyways. I've been out of the box all of my life. So one way that I like to utilize VWAP is to keep you out of trouble on ranging days. There will be a fair amount of ranging days around. Whenever people come to me for coaching and they start encountering ranging days, immediately there's this notion, oh, why don't we just stop trading when there's like if we don't have, you know, if you can't find a setup, you know, it's an inside day, it's a neutral day, oh, why don't we just stay out? Because those are some of the most frequently occurring days, okay? So if you're going to stay out of the market, yeah, fair enough, but for me that's not an option. I'm an intraday trader, and I actually wanted to master all types of trades. You don't just have reversal trades, continuation trades, pullback trades. You know, you don't have just that. You have ranging trades, you have momentum trades, you have slower auction trades, all of which carry a certain implication and a certain strategy that is appropriate to be used on that day. If that means lowering your risk reward target, you know, fair enough. But the trick with ranging days is to never get involved in the middle of the middle, especially for a reversal trade. So effectively using a key level VWAP, like here, would be the worst case possible, the lowest odds scenario. You might get lucky, okay? You might get lucky 5, 10, 20 times, but do that over and over on gold or crude oil on a neutral day, your results are not going to be great, okay? Range trading requires timing, accuracy, and reading low time frames. The first step to range trading is to avoid the middle of the middle. So if I put back my profile, I said that it's a neutral day, like an asymmetrical neutral day, but we still have a neutral day. So one way to avoid getting in trouble would be to mark where your VWAP is, and then to consider it a no-go zone. Do not execute trades from VWAP. Okay, especially not if you're going to go long from here. You might want to go short, but you know, that's a whole different can of worms. There are times when you will be okay to trade through VWAP, but I would still ensure that my entry is further away from it. Okay, so that's the first step, marking VWAP and avoiding it. Think of it as, you know, the ghetto of trading, right? Don't go in there flashing like Rolex and waving wads of cash, because you will get mugged, okay? Let's face it. So that would be the first step. The next step would be to identify where the lows and highs of that session are located. So today, we have this one as the high of the day or the session, and this is the low of the session, right? There is another interesting thing. Today it's a bit less relevant, but the initial balance is the first hour trading, so that's marked in this red area. Sometimes it might be useful to mark your initial balance high, initial balance low. Our market profile indicator, Blahtech MP, already has that, so you wouldn't need to do any extra work. But for a ranging day that has kind of gone quite far away from the initial balance on both sides, that's probably not going to be that useful. So in that case, just the high and low of the session will suffice. At this point, you can use my own cue points if you're my market stalker to figure out the swing, if you have a swing. If you don't have cue points, always be a little bit suspicious, because that means there's either an asymmetrical auction in progress, like this day, or we are having like an unusual day of some sort, and it's maybe not fully range bound. Okay, so again, I'm saying avoid VWAP as a vast simplification, because there are other conditions that you have to ensure that exist to be able to have a good trade. Jeremy, yes, always using VWAP as a target is a lot more preferable, but on a ranging day, I would typically use something else. I will use 1R. So for example, here we have a bearish engulfing on a 30-minute chart. But if I start drilling down through the time frames, you will also have a reversal somewhere higher up. And on a ranging day, I rarely go for anything more than 1R. So here I can tell you that on my kind of standard settings, this would now be 1R. This would be like an evening star where I would have gotten involved. And now I will be taking my profits at 1R, okay? I wouldn't go down to VWAP, because it might get there, it might not, right? So I basically just trade the edge of wherever we are. So if we are closer to the top, I will try to fade that on a neutral day. If we're closer to the bottom, I will try to fade that. I'm not looking for 2R, I'm not looking for VWAP or anything. VWAP as a target is more appropriate on a day when the price has trended in one direction and then we're moving back. Not necessarily on a neutral day. It might be an okay target, don't get me wrong, some people do pretty well using VWAP, but the problem is that VWAP sometimes will be too high up or too low down, and then you will still get a movement that might get you that kind of buffer trade, like a 1R trade, and then you're looking for more, and while you're looking for more, the market moves all the way back to your entry. Now, when I was trying to get better at ranging days, that used to happen to me all the time, so naturally that was my sign, my signal to do something about it. And my solution was to reduce the R multiples down to 1R, and just to try and maybe get 2, 3, 4, 5 trades from a similar area, okay? Because if you're looking at the opportunities, you also had another opportunity up here to get involved for a little buffer trade, again 35 ticks. If you use an even lower reversal area, and then this would be your second trade. And now if we get that move all the way down, you might want to monitor the low for another fade back the other way, and that would be like your 3 trades, 3R, done, right? So typically on a ranging day, I will trade more. Jeremy says, I longed GC off pull into initial balance low, sort of anticipating a neutral day earlier. Looking back, it probably wasn't the best trade since I did not have a strong price pattern. I think you did have a value high though, Jeremy, and that is actually a pretty good trade. So I had that as an option, but again, I decided to stay out of the market today and just do other things. Because I am a little bit sick still, so I didn't want to trust my brain that I'm going to make the good decision. But if we go back up to 30 minutes, and if I put back the value areas onto the chart, this is the value area from yesterday. Let's clean up the VWAP standard deviation so that we can see what we're doing here. Increase the size of the candles, because we're not old. And yeah, so you had the value high test. So you say you went in off initial balance low expecting a neutral day. You were absolutely correct. But the reversal area here was the value high. It was an inside day open, but because the entirety of the rest of the profile is outside of it, once the price returns to the area where everything began, value high can be considered in those contextual circumstances as another reversal area. If you have an inside day and the whole thing is comprised inside of the value area, the value area edges are not really any good. But once we've jumped away entirely and the whole thing is happening above it, then yeah, it becomes, you know, it becomes a bounce point anyway. So it wasn't completely against rules. So, you know, you might have gone in on a gut feel, but actually it had merit. So well done. Yeah, exactly. So value high and VWAP were aligned there. You had a stack level. I like to call that stack levels. So yeah, and let's see what else do we have on VWAP, whether I missed anything. I would not be surprised. Oh, we have alerts, of course. Yeah, nowhere without alerts. So alerts are if you want the platform to send you a notification for, let's say, when VWAP is touched or when standard deviation is touched. All of that is actually available as an alert, okay? So here you have alerts 1, 2, 3. In every section, so use VWAP, Eastern European in me is screaming. If you have VWAP, you go to the bottom and you will see alerts. So if you then put that to true, you can then activate the alerts. I personally really don't use alerts. I'll be totally honest, guys. So I'm not even sure I will know how to use this, but here is the alert section. So alerts pop up. So you can get it to pop up and to give you a ding when you want to, or it can just make a sound. So it's not going to do a pop-up, it's just going to make a sound. Or you can completely disable it. Oh, somebody's throwing up. Sorry, guys. Oh, it's Bernard. Bernard ate something in the park yesterday that he's not supposed to. And he always throws up on carpets. Dude. You right? You okay? Just gonna go get him. Okay? I know. A little bit of a tender. I know. Alright. It's okay. My big brain. A bit sick. Big Bernie, a bit sick. Yes. Biggest Pomeranian in the world. Yeah. Let me move close to the microphone. Hopefully he'll be alright. Are you okay? Are you okay? I'm sorry. I know. You're not very well. He's also a bit sensitive to chicken, we figured out, so maybe we need to make sure you don't eat any chicken. He stole some chicken from one of his siblings earlier. So yeah, poor boy. Yeah, exactly. Barrel says, my dog likes throwing up on carpets. Yeah, there's a perfectly good piece of floor there, dude. And they always throw up on furnishings. It's like, come on. Okay, get comfy, get comfy. I know. Yeah, just don't lick me, please. You just threw up. Like, there are limits to the love. Yeah, so alerts pop up in sound. It can even give you an email, but I think that with the email stuff, you need a third-party service. One problem that came up when I was trying to use my email notifications was that Gmail, if you're using Gmail, it just doesn't allow third-party applications to access the SMTP server. So, you know, that's not really a thing. And then alerts notification. I suppose it notifies you. You can select the sound if you have a particular WAV file that you want to play. You can even limit when the alerts are going to sound, when they're going to notify you. So we have the start time, end time. So if you don't want full 24 hours your platform pinging and dinging at you, you can just put that to the session hours. You can do message texts. Again, this is all email related, so I'm not sure whether that works anymore because of Google. But if you don't use Google, you might use something else, and then you won't have that problem, so you can use the email. But it has to be a third party, I think, because that's changed. I know that's changed. Oh, God, I'm still itchy. Bloody nettles. All right, and then some of this other stuff is just GMT offset. I mean, you don't really need to use that because AMP futures use GMT. So there's no need to offset anything because right now we have the automatic daylight savings, so you don't need to touch that. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for VWAP. So it's a really, really good way to enhance your edge, to improve your trading strategy if you're not already using it. It's not a core part of the market stalkers method, but like I said, because so many of you have been using it, I had to start including it in some of my decisions as well, because there's only so many people that can mention something that partially works for them without me being very very inquisitive and nosy. So I had to give my take on VWAP. All right, so I'm going to give you the link. I know that a lot of you have already got it because last night there was like the gold rush on VWAP. So everybody went to buy it. But just in case that you missed out on the email, I do have... Yeah, there you go. Jeremy picked it up after trading today. So yeah, but there are some people who are not on our newsletter. I don't know why. You should be on our newsletter. So maybe I should put like a notification in the community section as well, because I haven't done that. So yeah, I'm going to do that. But yeah, what is the link? I just want to make sure that I give you the right link. So copy and paste. Yeah, Jeremy says, I have your notifications live for YouTube and Twitter. Thank you, much appreciated. Like I started joking, that I don't really have an upload schedule, which I don't, because, we're all busy people. If I want to upload something, I'm surely not going to wait until like, Wednesday at like 7 p.m. to upload. If I want to upload a new video, I'm just going to upload it, which is why it's beneficial to have those notifications switched on, obviously. Right, so in the chat section, you should be able to see the direct link for Blahtech MT5 VWAP. If you guys want MT4 version, which I don't think you do because there's very few of us who are actually using MT4, that's like the old style thing. You're right. Yeah, you're just cuddling. Okay. Poor Bernie. Yeah, if you want the MT4 version, you will have to go onto MQL5, and I don't have a special link for that. Although maybe I should create it. So give me a minute. Oh, you wanna go? Are you sick again? Don't throw up on me. Good boy. I know. Go and rest. Go and rest. Right, let me create this this extra link, but I need to find it. That's the MT5 version. And then this is the MT4. Found it. VWAP MT4. So if you're using MT4, then the link that you want is this one. So grasshoppering.club/VWAP MT4. All right, so I think I'm gonna call it a day with this. So this was just, you know, end of the day special release to do an overview of VWAP. Jeremy says, quick question. You mentioned how on a 150K account, the average size should be 4 micros for 4 trades a day. Would you say proper size would be 6 micros for 3? Okay, so when you go over 4 micros, first of all, micros commissions are atrocious, okay? You can just about do okay on like up to 4 micros, but as soon as you start getting into 8 micros, I would say just trade the full contracts, okay? If you don't really trade much, and if you find that you're, I mean, 3 trades in a day is a lot. So if you can maybe stop on 2 lost trades on full size on E-mini, that might work. But I really wouldn't use more than 4 contracts on micros because the commissions will decimate any kind of opportunistic trades. Like if you want to do trades for 1 hour for whatever reason, half of that is going to go on commissions. Like it's really bad, really bad. But if you're only doing like 1, 2, 3, or 4 contracts, that's just about acceptable. So yeah, think about it, but really on a full contract and 150K, I would say 2 trades per day would be the maximum. And then 3 trades, stick to 4 micros, you know, just stick to 4 micros because otherwise, again, commissions, you know, I just really can't. Jerobi says, different topic. Do you remember in which Blahtech indicator I can find the normal pivot? I'm searching for it but cannot find. Do we have a normal pivot? I'm not sure that we have a normal pivot displayed. Like I know that we have it for charts. Let me just let Bernie out because he's moaning. Come on, Bernie. Let's go. Go, go, go. Good boy. Yeah, so do we have a normal pivot? So I know that on Blahtech DR we have the calculation that uses the normal pivot to create the support and resistance levels. So these things, if you can see these, they are actually from the normal pivot. So yeah, I'm not sure that the update that we did the update for that, because I did ask them. I said, you know, can we add that? So I don't think we presently have the normal pivot, Jerobi, but I will put a rush on that. So I will tell them to try and add it to the Blahtech DR. So if you have Blahtech DR, you don't need to, you won't need to pay extra. It's just going to be like an additional update, which are always free. So yeah. Yeah, so Blahtech DR is what you're looking for. And I've just shown you the extensions. Yeah, so let me clean this up and then you'll be able to see it a bit better. So if you press, if you have Blahtech DR on the chart and you start pressing letter A on your keyboard, and you keep pressing them, you get the extensions. Yeah, so I'm just looping that. So we have average session, daily range, average session and daily range. So this is the session, this is the daily range, and then we have the regular thick lines with a fixed DR, which we only use in quiet markets, and then you have the extensions. So here is R1, R2. You go higher. This is R3. So that's all based on the pivot. But we don't actually have the pivot on the chart. Yeah, it's the daily range indicator. That's right. Blahtech DR, it's called. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Been here for nearly an hour, and since this is a public video, I don't want to have it too long, so I think we've covered all of the Blahtech VWAP features. We've even gone over a few other features. We analyzed Jeremy's trade, and even though he thought it was a bit impulsive, I disagreed, actually. Doesn't happen that often. Just speaks to the quality of my market stalkers. So even, see, the gut feel, to finish on a high, the gut feel, when you don't have experience, the gut feel is useless, right? But once you have experience and once you've worked in a systematic framework, there is such a thing as gut feel. But at that point, it's based on an educated experiential data. It's not based on, you know, trying to be Mystic Meg. So, so sometimes your hunch might be correct, even though you consciously you don't really know why, but it's still correct. You kind of feel that that level is going to react and that it's going to end up as a neutral day or a reversal or whatever, but it's not coming from a crystal ball. It's coming from your actual experience that your brain has very cleverly collated and aggregated and then spewed out in the form of a gut feel, right? Very different thing, okay? So I'm not opposed to some of the more experienced guys who have been battling with the markets using the market stalkers method for 1, 2, 3, 4 years, however many years you've been with me. But I am against people who have not used the systematic method and then going, I think it's going to go that way. So that's never going to work, right? That's just plain luck and guesswork and literally, like Marcus says, trying to be Mystic Meg. So you don't want that. Alright guys, that's it for today. Let's try to be less Muppety and more Mark Stokery with every passing day. I will bid you goodbye until tomorrow. Have a great day.